right, ready?
Yep.
Is that already rolling?
Yeah, it's already rolling.
All right, let's do it.
So anyway, that's when I told her, oh, whoa, Grandma, that's how you died.
Breaking news.
Breaking.
Episode 15 of the Chicken Coop. The Writers Guild of America are officially on strike. So if you don't know what that means or you don't know what that is about, we're going to tell you. As usual, it's me, Alex, and...
I'm Adrian. I'm here.
And so I guess we'll just get into it. So the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, have officially gone on strike as of Tuesday, May 2nd at 12:01 a.m. PDT.
Tuesday.
Yep, when their current contract ran out.
Yeah.
And this has kind of been predicted to happen for a couple of months because... Years, but definitely people have kind of known that this is about to happen. So the industry has kind of been gearing up for this. And it's not good.
Oh, is it?
It's good for writers. It's terrible for TV shows that you're currently watching.
It's terrible if you like to watch anything that is written by a writer.
But it's totally justified, and I personally 100% support the writers' strike.
Yeah.
So
I support the scabs.
The scabs?
Just fucking with you.
It's over 11,000 film and TV writers are going on strike. This is the first time in 15 years since the 2007-2008 strike. That strike lasted over 100 days.
Yeah, it was like 4 months or something, right?
Yeah, and it basically decimated the film industry at the time.
It was a wild time being in LA during that because it was also during the financial crash of 2008.
Oh yeah.
So
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah, between shit being haywire generally and non-stop picket lines all over the city. Yeah. It was crazy.
We'll get to that. I'll give you a brief rundown. So yeah, the writers voted basically unanimously to authorize the strike. 98% of members of the WGA authorized a strike. And who are they striking against, you may ask? Well, they're striking against the AMPTP. Who are they? The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which is basically Discovery Warner, NBC Universal, Paramount, Sony, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and Disney. They're all underneath that umbrella of the AMPTP.
It's FANG for the film industry, but with a less fancy title.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what are they striking over? They are striking over essentially a couple of things, but a big thing is the era of new media and streaming has kind of turned the industry a little bit on its head, and it's made it much easier for these big companies, the big six, I think they're called, to obfuscate costs and not pay writers properly, not pay residuals.
Well, not pay anybody properly. I mean, the DGA is also considering a strike.
Yeah, I mean, the DGA is 100% in support of the
writer strike.
The writer strike. If you recall, in the middle of COVID, IATSE also striked then. Struck. And
like striked, I think it would be striked.
Yeah, and we'll also talk about that in a bit.
I would not be surprised if IATSE decided to strike again later.
I mean, they should. Yeah. So what are they actually striking about? Well, it turns out that if you counter for inflation, I think in the past 10 or 20 years, I believe writers' pay has gone down 25%. Meanwhile, those companies' CEO pay has gone up by like an insane percentage. I believe the increase that basically the amount of money it would cost for what they're asking for, the amount of extra money they would be being paid would be amount to something like $450 million.
Yeah,
which is still far less than the amount that those CEOs collectively are being paid, and they could still pay that and still earn like 50 million each a year. So I'll briefly skim through these because it's kind of dry. But okay, so what are they negotiating over? So WGA proposals, things like 6% for all minimums, including residual bases, meaning I guess increases and in the amount of money they're being paid. They're doing things like for streaming features with a budget of $12 million or more. They want to receive full theatrical terms, including better initial compensation and residuals.
Let's pause there and explain that as of today, streaming movies and anything that doesn't come out in the theater, when it's like fully produced, I'm not talking like indie features or stuff, but like The Gray Man, that's not technically a movie by union standards. The union does not pay the writers or directors.
It's on a different rate scale, yeah.
Or the day workers, any IATSE members, grips.
I believe what happened was when Netflix and Amazon Prime, those streamers,
when they were starting up, they
negotiated cheaper rates with the labor unions, film business labor unions.
Well, with the promise that those were upstart rates and that they would change at some point.
Yes, and
now seems to be the point where they must change. And now they're refusing to.
Cable basically doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So, but they're still being allowed to get away with paying much cheaper rates to all these unions
to every single worker, basically. So if they used to be the minority and pay less than cable, which was the majority, now the majority has disappeared. And the minority is the only market space that's available, and they are refusing to pay a fair wage.
They're also doing things like, instead of employing a writer full time, they're turning them more into gig workers, which makes it very difficult to actually have a career and live off of writing.
Yeah.
There's the story that came out where this sounds a little bit weird, but it was in the news that one of the writers for The Bear, one of the comedy show that I believe won a ton of awards for writing as well. Yeah. Apparently one of the writers on that team was wearing a bow tie that he got from a pawn shop or something. He had to pawn something to get the bow tie that he wore that night because he was living in some shitty apartment and couldn't afford heating, which is...
I mean, I believe that because the checks don't clear, especially for a show like that. I mean, the budget was fairly low. I don't think the checks clear immediately. It's an FX show. It's not like...
He must have been in debt or something before then, but still, a couple of years ago, that might not be the case.
A couple of years ago, when you're a salaried writer on a room... You're getting a fair amount of money each month, just for your labor.
They're also getting rid of writers. Things like getting rid of writers before production starts. So they'll write everything and then they'll fire all the writers.
So they don't get the wage through the show.
Yeah. It's kind of, typical corporate greed and corruption.
Honestly, it's not the way the film industry has historically behaved.
It's a lot to do
I'm going to chalk this up to tech. Because this is all finance and tech feeling. That's the kind of shit that they pull up in Silicon Valley. It's not the way that Hollywood does its fair share of scummy shit. Like
the industry's been changed by them. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is 100% has like finance and tech written all over it.
Yeah. So going back to the terms, so for features, so guaranteed second step require a second step if hired for a screenplay for less than 250% of minimum. Things like weekly pay, 50% pay upon commencement, which means when you finish the project, you get 50% of the amount of money you were owed, and then 50% to be paid out weekly over the writing period. Applies if writer is paid less than 250% of a minimum. Writers above this threshold have the right to opt in to weekly pay, blah, blah, blah.
And they rejected that outright.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because that's if you're going to try and change it to be gig work, that's something that all gig work does. You get a gig, you get paid 50 up front, 50 at the back end. That's what a commission-based salary is,
that's
or a commission-based rate is. What a lot of those
writers, especially for features, it normally is. Yeah. And I guess we should say that a lot of the ways that writers make money, that yes, you might earn a lot of money for writing
selling a script
to writing a successful movie. You get a bulk amount. Maybe you get like 60 grand. Maybe you get 100 grand. But then first of all, a lot of that goes to your agent straight away.
I think 10 to 20%. 10% off the top goes to your agent.
And
between 7 and 10% goes to your manager.
Yeah, and then
you have,
let's say they have to take
40% of whatever you get after all of that. It goes to tax.
Yeah. So. And then you have to you're writing other scripts, you're trying to sell other scripts at the time, and you might not sell a script for a couple of years.
And that one that you sold was 2 or 3 years of work.
So what happens is, if you write a hit movie or you write a hit TV show, you get what's called residuals, which is, that's basically a percentage of the sales of DVDs. If you write a TV show and it goes on into syndication where it's played over and over and over again on TV, you get a percentage of that. So writers and a lot of people in the film business rely on that to basically make a living.
Yeah.
And with the advent of streaming services, a lot of the streaming services don't give out numbers like how much, like Netflix, for instance, is sort of known for, they don't tell you. They say, the show's doing really well. They won't say the show's had 100 million views or whatever. So it makes it very difficult to track these residuals. And they also want to massively reduce the amount of money being paid out by these residuals.
Yeah.
And they also want to do other things the writers guild are asking for in episodic television. They are asking for, this one does sound kind of weird to me, but in episodic television, preserving the writer's room, pre-greenlight rooms, a minimum staff of 6 writers, including 4 writer-producers, post-greenlit room, meaning is the project
picked up to full series
post-production in production or not. Post-greenlit rooms, 1 writer per episode up to 6 episodes, then 1 additional writer required for each 2 episodes after 6 up to a max of 12 writers. For example, 8 episodes require 7 writers, including 4 writer-producers. 10 episodes require 8 writers, including 5 writer-producers. This was outright rejected, which maybe I don't know enough about this personally, but that does seem a little excessive.
So what that is the union trying to preserve jobs for its members, which
also get them full-time gigs.
Yeah, that's a big ask, right? Yeah. That is a big ask. However, when you start negotiating, you start big. You bring it back. 12 writers on a show that's after 8 episodes, right?
8 episodes require 7 writers, including 4 writers producers.
Yeah. So that's a lot of writers for say a small show. But
back in the day, on like a show like The Sopranos,
they'd have like 20 writers.
That's industry standard sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have like sort of a very niche auteur show like Barry, where the screenwriters are,
but even then,
one guy,
you have 1 writer, but you have a writer's room. You have a room of people that one writer is bouncing ideas off of and that are proposing ideas.
Possibly not.
I guarantee you, there's a writer's room for Barry.
Maybe it might just be him and Hader. Bill Hader.
Bill Hader is the writer.
He's not the writer he's the director.
Oh, okay.
At least this season when I looked it up, I'm sure the guy's got the writing credit and he's also as a writer. But.
So I don't think that's such a huge ask especially for like syndicated TV and things like sitcoms and romantic shows and anything that actually has writing.
Another thing for TV shows, they're asking for duration of employment. So pre-greenlit rooms again, minimum staff guaranteed at least 10 consecutive weeks of work. Post-greenlit rooms, writers on staff must get at least 3 weeks per episode, up to a max of 52 weeks.
10 writers for pre-greenlit is that's kind of a big ask, right?
No, it wasn't that. Minimum staff guaranteed at least 10 consecutive weeks of work.
Oh,
for
okay.
Pre-greenlit rooms.
Never mind. Yeah, that's fine.
Post-greenlit rooms, writers on staff must get at least 3 weeks per episode, up to a maximum of 52 weeks.
Fine.
Half of the minimum staff must be employed through the production, meaning you have to have at least half of the allotted writers always being paid. You can't hire, them up front and then fire them. And then 1 writer must be employed through post. That was also rejected outright,
which seems kind of strange, just because in the interest of making a good product, you want the person who wrote the material to be, or one person who's a representative of the material.
We can get back to that
to be there through the entire thing.
When we talk a little bit about the shows like
Rings of Power.
Yes. Yeah. And then TV weeklies are what is this? TV weeklies increase weekly rates of staff writers and story editors, executive story editors by 6%, 5%, 5%. Establish new writer-producer tier with weekly rate 25% above SE and ESE, which I guess is story executive, something like that. I'm not sure. And WGA, other proposals for pre-Greenlight Room compensations, pre-Greenlight Room weekly services paid at 25% premium, blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm just trying to skim through these.
Yeah.
Then we get down to some streaming stuff. So foreign streaming residuals. I'm not going to read this out, but it's a lot of tables with...
Yeah, a lot of this is just math from here.
Yeah, percentage increases. So like foreign subs, if less than 20 million, they're asking for 50% of foreign payment of residuals.
I mean, the long and short of this entire strike is that their wages have kind of shrank a lot, like a sizable amount over time. And if you include the change between streaming and, normal filmmaking, there's been a lot of it's
bloat,
not,
and also
there's bloat in the budget that's been taken and put all the way to the top, and the writers are one of the main people suffering.
It's also something that I've seen firsthand, and my dad, who's a line producer, definitely saw firsthand. Was these companies? There's a way. Film production accounting is a very niche form of accounting, and instead of hiring film accountants, these big tech companies like Amazon insisted on having their own accountants do that job.
Yeah.
And that causes all sorts of issues.
Yeah.
But sorry, real quick, just so you kind of can see what the difference in what they're asking for and what the streaming services are trying to give them, for shows with like less than, let's see, what's a comparable, more than 45 million. Let's do that one. So more than 45 million, they're asking for like 13 grand, and where is it? And the studios are offering 4.5 grand. So
for what period?
That's dollar amounts are for 1 hour episode for the first year of use. So that'd be like a residual
per writer.
I guess so. This isn't that clear
for $45 million budget episodes.
I think it's viewership, foreign subs.
Oh yeah. So the way that they measure that is not actual viewership. It's
I guess subscribers.
It's going to be subscribers, and then it's going to be broken down by the dollar amount per episode.
Yeah.
Viewed that is viewable by how many subscribers.
They have different, then they have viewership-based streaming residuals.
Yeah.
Establish a viewership-based residual in addition to existing fixed residuals to reward programs with greater viewership, requiring transparency regarding program views. Yeah,
that's something that everybody's been asking for, and especially on a consumer level.
You hear a lot of comedians talking about how they don't know how well their special did.
Yeah, and we've talked about it several times on the podcast for shows that we found successful, like 1899 or Inside Job, that seem to have a lot of hubbub about them, and people seem to like them.
Write-off reasons.
They cancelled for tax write-off reasons.
Make something really expensive.
Yeah,
cancel it and never
call it a loss.
Something. Look at the show. Look at the movies that haven't even been aired because of that. What else? We've got some ad-supported stuff. I'm not going to read all this out. They're asking for some pension and health stuff. Each member of a team gets pension and health contributions as if they were writing as an individual. That outright rejected. Regulate use of... so this one's a very interesting one. Artificial intelligence. So they're asking for regulate the use of artificial intelligence on MBA covered projects. AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and MBA covered material can't be used to train AI. And this was rejected, and the counter offer was annual meetings to discuss advancements in technology. Which, to be fair, I don't even know how you would even begin to regulate and know what's AI generated and what isn't AI generated. But
that's yes, I guess. But if the guidelines are, you're not allowed to use AI as source material, and you're not allowed to rewrite scripts using AI. It's going to be hard to tell what's AI and what's not eventually. However, if a production gets caught using AI, then there's a route of punishment, because they're avoiding employing actual living, breathing human beings who work for a union and have worked their hands to the bone trying to get into the damn thing.
Yeah, and also just if you don't know, these writers, the film business unions, these are the things that are going to give you a pension and health plan. So when you retire, They give you, workers' rights, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just but coming back to the cost is the very last thing. They've got a couple of tentative agreements already. WGA proposals would gain writers approximately $429 million per year. The AMPTP's offer is approximately $86 million per year, 48% of which is from the minimums increase. So that's a big difference of about $380-ish million.
Yeah.
And which really isn't that much of an increase.
$380 million is 2 times the budget of Black Adam.
They've gotten away with not paying this from the inception of these streaming services and new media, which, so they're
That's
earning,
like 2014 or 2013 or 14.
They're building these massive businesses and they're basically screwing over the film business to do it. And so
it's
now you're
not screwing over the film business. They're screwing over the individuals working in the film business.
Yeah.
And not just the individuals currently working in the film business, but all aspirants.
Yeah.
So people who are going to school to become screenwriters are looking at a shrinking pool of opportunities for them, not because there's less of a demand from consumers, but because the businesses aren't operating ethically.
You're not going to earn as much money or
And again, that is 100% it. There's no shortage of demand from audiences for better written movies, for better written TV shows, for stronger writing. Whenever there's a movie that comes out that has something subpar about it, the internet is the first to get on that line of like, oh, the writer should be shot out of a cannon into the sun.
You want good stuff, then you got to pay good writers.
But the problem is the industry refuses to kind of answer that, and then they refuse to, for every very well written, for every Barry and auteur writer for any other great show. For every Amy Sherman Palladino for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you have an Alex Kurtzman writing Star Trek Discovery. So
also, I mean, if you want something, I mean, there's also an aspect to it. A writer's got to be able to earn enough money from one project so they can then not
reliably make more good projects.
Then they're not gonna. They have to be able to sit while they write for however long to come up with like the next great TV show or movie to watch.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the last strike?
First, I want to just say what is actually happening now?
Yes.
So what is happening if you live in LA and I guess probably Atlanta and maybe Canada as well.
New York maybe having.
New York probably has it as well.
For like TV writers.
All these writers are not writing. They have walked out. And they are now forming picket lines.
Well, I think that's a little hard to say because they say 90% of writing isn't writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are they?
How many shows about writer strikes are being formulated right now?
How much of that is them actually still writing just off the clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. But
everybody in a picket line is a scab right now working against their own interests.
No. I
condemn that behavior.
No. So what's happening now? If you're in LA or if you're in New York and you can see, videos of this online, is there are these big picket lines in front of studios that are, hundreds of writers every day. They've been asked to go down by their union to, walk about along the picket line with big signposts, and people driving by the studios have been asked to honk their horns.
Yeah. I drove past on Tuesday, actually, the day it happened. Mick and I were working in the area, and we drove past Warner Brothers.
How was it?
Oh, not Warner Brothers, Fox.
I've been down in
Pico.
Yeah.
We drove there. We were going to Marty's for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we drove past there and like, oh yeah, that strike thing is happening today. And we saw maybe 100 people picketing outside of the studio lot.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a very frenzied executive looking person.
Trying to get through.
She was like getting through, like shaking her head, like, oh, walking across the street, like on 3 phones, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
I mean, I found out that it was happening because, I don't want to say his name, but a friend of ours who's as an executive assistant texted me saying like, "Uh-oh, here we go."
Yeah,
I just knew what that meant, and you've got picket lines, and what the writers' strike is asking is trying to do is essentially, not just that they're not writing, but they're stopping people from entering.
Yeah, it's the picket line.
Yeah, to work, so trucks can't get through. cars, you can't go into park in these places anymore. So they're trying to cause, maximum disruption to the business.
To the industry.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to get, you strike the bottom line. Yeah, I mean, what's one of the funny things, I mean, with all due respect and love to writers, I mean, that is I love writers.
Yeah.
I love the act of writing. I love everything there. When you see a picket line full of writers, you can tell that they're writers.
Yeah.
The body types going into IATSE strikes do not align with the body types going into writer strikes.
Oh, yeah. You've got the dichotomy between that and the creativity of the signs.
Yeah. the IATSE strikes, it's loud, like they were on their feet, marching, stomping their feet, big, standing tall. The writers, they had their signs slung over their shoulders. They're like moseying down. They're schmoozing with each other. Like it's such a writer strike to see. And there was a lot more fervor in the 2008 strike. Maybe that's just my memory, because I was a kid back then. But that also lasted a lot longer. I mean, that was also like 3 months in was when you started seeing like actual protests widespread around the city.
Yeah. So I guess we got a bunch of different. Now we've kind of given the rundown. We have a bunch of different things we can talk about. So maybe now is a good time to go back and talk about what happened in 2007. Also, 2007 wasn't the first. The writers have historically, film business, different unions have struck at different points in time.
The writers historically also kind of get a bad shake in Hollywood. Auteur theory dictates that the main author of a film is the director, and writers don't really like that. So they kind of don't really get credit where credit is due a lot of the time.
You know the names like Scorsese, but you don't know who wrote the Scorsese movies.
I think Scorsese writes all the stuff.
I don't think he does.
I'm pretty sure.
Maybe he does. Maybe I'm choosing the wrong example. But
I mean, so
same kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
What's good is also there's a lot of solidarity in other unions. So as Adrian mentioned earlier, DGA, I guess, might be going on strike. But all these unions have been very outspoken saying we fully support the writers' strike and the writers. And
well, again, this whole streaming issue is an industry-wide issue affecting all levels of employment.
I guess is this now the time that the writers' contract
expired, so they had the opportunity to strike.
Yeah.
On top of that, the writers have been wanting to strike since like late 2019.
Yeah. It's been rumored to be happening for a couple of years.
For years now. They were going to strike in 2020, and then the COVID happened, and that everything there just kind of demolished their plans. Because if the writers struck in 2020, there would be no films that came out until this year. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah. The knock-on effect is it's going to be
it doesn't happen immediately. For instance, some of the fallout from, do you want to talk about what happened in the first one? Is it even consequential what the terms were?
I don't think it's worth talking about the terms. Same kind of thing.
It was a wage dispute, but the strike in 2008 lasted for 4 months, and it disrupted the industry in a lot of different ways.
It blew up the industry.
We're still dealing with today. Honestly, So, for instance, there were movies that came out 2008, 9, 10 that were in production during the strike. The strike means that any writing being done on a movie had to cease immediately.
Yeah.
Any writers for that movie cannot be on set. TV shows also had that same problem. So with regards to TV shows, you started seeing...
let's get into that later. Yeah. Talk about like shows that were affected and you can actually see it in the episodes.
No. You saw a decline for like a year or two in actual production of scripted television. And you saw the unruly and meteoric rise of reality television.
Yeah.
So things like the Kardashian shows started around then. Paris Hilton was really huge at the time. Competition shows like America's Got Talent, American Idol. The Voice, I think, came much later. That's in like 2009 or 10.
A lot of like schlocky.
Real Housewives. Yep. All of that. The entire Bravo channel was basically made on that strike because it was cheap content that you could produce really fast.
Was that when Discovery Channel started to go downhill as well?
I don't think so. I think Discovery Channel followed the trend after all of that reality TV became more popular.
They had great reality TV-ish, you know, Mythbusters and
but that's effortful TV.
Yeah,
you know. So when that brand of reality TV became very, very popular after the writer's strike, other sources like the History Channel and Discovery started taking note and following and saying, "Hey, what that's making them millions of dollars. Why aren't we doing that?"
Yeah. So I found a very brief rundown of the writer's strike throughout the years and what they actually achieved. So we have 1953, 13 weeks. This is writer strikes. 1953, 13 weeks. First TV residuals. 1960, 22 weeks. First feature residuals, independent pension, health insurance, and 4% increase in TV residuals. 1973, 4 months. They got their own health fund and 1.2% increase in residuals and VHS sales and pay TV. 1981, 13 weeks. Made for pay TV, covered, and basic cable residuals improved. 1985, 2 weeks. Home video residuals improved. 1988, 22 weeks. Cable TV residuals improved. 2007, 100 days. New media coverage and residuals. There we go. So
yeah,
that's the advent of new media. And now, 2023, we'll see.
Yeah. So another thing that you can see, I mean, I can point to direct examples. Quantum of Solace, the second James Bond movie with Daniel Craig, infamously has almost no narrative to speak of. It's very confusing.
Just
you may be able to remember 2 scenes from it because they are visual spectacle, but nobody can tell you what happened in that film. You know what the idea was, who he was going after, who the villain was. So that movie was being made at the very beginning of the writer's strike, and then the writer's strike happens, and no script. Whoopsie doozy. Now the people making the film have to write the script as they go.
Because you've already, I mean, it's not really the people that making the movies for either, because, you've already hired everyone you need. You've probably built all the sets. You've made all the costumes. You've probably already given a lot of people lump sum money. You've already have the actors on a specific contract.
Yeah.
If you violate the contract, you're going to have to pay them the same amount later.
I'm pretty sure Transformers 2 came out of that strike as well, which also infamously has no fucking plot whatsoever. I think one positive that came out was, I think Iron Man came out around, because that came out in 2008. Maybe that was in production earlier though.
Yeah, probably.
But it was also written and directed by the same person. So
yeah. So we'll see how that happens.
So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. One great thing that I implore you guys to watch if you haven't already, that came out of the writer's strike in 2008 was Dr. Horrible's sing along blog.
I've never seen it, but I have heard good things.
It's a web musical comedy drama starring Neil Patrick Harris as Dr. Horrible, who is an aspiring supervillain. His nemesis is Captain Hammer, played by Nate Fillion.
Yeah.
It's written by Joss and Jed Whedon, back when Joss Whedon was not a persona non grata in Hollywood. It's very, very cute. It's Felicia Day is in it as Penny, and the guy who plays that one dude from Big Bang Theory is in it too. As I think his name is Moist.
So that
He's
came
just
out
like a wet dude.
That came out from the writer's strike?
That came out from the writer's strike because they weren't able to work on actual projects, but they still wanted to make something. Yeah. So they wrote a little funny internet musical about a supervillain who can't get into the evil League of Evil until he kills somebody. And he's also smitten in love with this woman, but she's in love with the guy he's trying to kill.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
So it's cute, watch it, but that is what happened during the last strike. So hopefully we get some good art out of this.
And the real shame is the film business is... We're finally getting good movies again at the Oscars, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
Or fun movies, at least. There's been some clips circulating, there's the clip of a lot of late night shows in 2007 went dark, quotes, went dark, went off the air because, most of those shows, you need the writers to write the jokes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the talk show hosts now have said that they're also going to be going dark. And then eventually they started up again in 2007 or 8, a couple of like maybe 50 days in, and you got weird late night where Conan spins his wedding band on the table for however long he can, then just
it was that was a good time.
Yeah, it was
because it was just like, okay, we got to fill air, but we have nothing here, and we're kind of mad at the studio too.
Yeah.
So that stuff is fun. I mean, the silver lining here is that I think this is James Corden's last year in the United States, and we may be getting 2 to 3 months without any James Corden.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Your commutes down 3rd Street are about to be a lot nicer.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. So another, I don't think I've mentioned international cooperation yet. So
yeah,
one thing that studios tend to do is, all right, well, WGA striking. What about we'll just hire British and Canadian writers, and the British Canadian writers unions and Australian writers unions have said, guess what? We fully support the WGA and what they're doing, and we won't be helping you. So whether they hold to that, we'll see. But
that's great.
Good.
That's good.
Solidarity between all the unions. I guess just expanding on how bad the 2007 writer's strike was is my dad was in the film business at the time, and he knew people. I know people to this day that haven't worked in the film business since then. They lost their houses, they lost their... And this isn't just writers. This is anyone that works in the film business, because without a script, you can't make a TV show or a movie.
Everything comes to a standstill.
Yeah, so
it's pretty bad. You
can't pay the mortgage. You got to find a job doing something else. A lot of these jobs are very weird, very niche skills that don't really apply anywhere else. Especially also 2007 is a financial crisis.
Yeah, 2007 was a really bad time too for pretty much everybody.
I mean, now could be. It's not great at the moment either, but it could be.
What are you talking about? We've only had 5 banks fail in the last 35 days.
Didn't some more fail today, I think?
I don't know. Western Alliance failed on Thursday.
Pacific Western yesterday,
Oh my God, are you serious?
I think so. My mum texted me about that one. I
heard about that one yesterday. Yeah, I don't think it's failed yet. It hasn't been seized yet, but it will be. So First Republic was snatched up by JP Morgan, so they made out by the skin of their teeth.
But who I really feel bad for, I feel bad for the writers, I feel bad for everyone, but the people I really feel bad for are all the PAs.
The scabs.
No, all the PAs, all the assistants, all the minimum wage workers who, for some reason, the studios always do this. They fire them first. They get rid of them first. They're the people that are working the longest hours, getting paid significantly the least amount. You go from, they're literally getting paid minimum wage, where the next tier of job above is 3 or 4 times the amount.
Well, I hate to be the Redditor in the room, but I don't think Japanese corporations are actually that good. I think there's a whole bird's nest to untangle there. But when the Wii U stopped selling well, or when it was released and sold like shit, CEO of Nintendo said, okay, that's coming out of my bill. And he took a huge pay cut and didn't lay anybody off, and that was fine.
Studios always do this. Whenever I've been working on I've worked on so many film and TV shows where they fucked up the budget for the first half, and so the second half you got to get rid of a bunch. Guess what? The ADs don't get their trainer anymore to work out of at night.
Whoopsie.
We got to cut this. We got to cut that, and also we're cutting 3 PAs of your 5 PAs, and that means you save basically no money because they don't cost anything.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things. And I feel terrible for those people, because a lot of those guys are working paycheck to paycheck, and those are the people that are trying to break into the industry.
Yeah.
So they're kind of fucked.
So on the topic of casualties, I think yesterday was the first actual casualty of this was announced.
Oh yeah, 31-year-old writer jumped off the building of...
What the fuck are you talking? I'm talking about movies.
Oh, you didn't know about that?
No, what?
I think... I'm pretty sure it's the industry, the film writer. Let me just double check.
I was going to talk about Blade. That's a way less somber thing to talk about. Jesus Christ!
I said tragedy.
I said casualty. Technically, you're correct, but it's my fault, I guess. But Jesus fucking Christ, man!
I literally read this, I think today or yesterday. I wasn't going to mention it, but sorry guys for the dead air. I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure I read it yesterday. The 31-year-old writer jumped off of like the Disney building or something like that.
Disney's had a lot of suicides lately. I'm starting to get suspicious.
But I can't find it, and I don't. So take that with a grain of salt. Maybe it was something else, and I'm misremembering. But yeah. So yeah, all these movies are now being.
You know what was affected by the writer strike? Heroes.
Oh,
Heroes season 2 was killed by the writer strike. Sorry,
and got lost.
It just had no goals towards the center of it, and they had such big set pieces too, so they wasted a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean,
and then didn't have a story.
They moved the entire cast to Hawaii.
It's amazing how like everybody in a creative industry, besides for the writers, has no storytelling talent without a writer.
Yeah.
When it comes to TV shows, especially.
Yeah.
Like you'd think, oh, there's one director or producer there who like has read a book or read a story before, and like.
It goes to show you.
One dude's read the hero's journey. Like one guy.
When you're confused when you watch a movie with a great cast and a good writer and a good director,
it's the production.
This isn't good. That's what when you hear people talking about studio interference. That's what it is.
Yeah. And then you have the opposite where it's Ridley Scott and it turns out well, and it's like, wow, the studio really did a good job on that one.
So, where were we? So we've kind of gone over, previous writer strike in 2007. Other film business are cooperating. So something that also happens in the build up to these writer strikes is that they rush writers to try and get the scripts out before the writer strike happens. So instead of having, I don't know, half a year to write the scripts or 3 months, 2 months to write this one script, now you have to write 6 scripts in the space of 2 months.
Yeah.
To fill out the show, so the show can keep being made. So, and also, a lot of people, like, you're not just writing the movie. When you're actually filming the production day to day, there's normally at least a writer or two and a showrunner
to rewrite,
sitting at Video Village watching everything to see if something's not working. Maybe this line isn't working. Maybe the actor says, "I think I need a joke here," and then the writers will come up with that joke or come up with the rewrite or the quick fix. Or it can even be, oh shit, we've just lost this location for the second half of the day. We need to find something and change the scene. Yeah. Or like stupid things like I don't know, a very important prop didn't show up. Little things.
Actually, there's an anecdote about that.
Film business is
trying to think of
what's it called? Problem solving. Yeah. Producing is problem solving.
Putting out fires.
Yeah. But you wanted to talk about Blade?
Oh yeah. So like the first real cancellation so far has been Blade, the Marvel movie. But everybody's like, the writer strike killed this. This is not the writer strike. The writer strike is a very convenient excuse for Marvel to say we're not making this movie anymore.
Well, they pushed it off again, right?
Yeah.
But you want to talk more about, there's a whole
So like Blade, if you don't know, is a vampire character previously played by Wesley Snipes.
Great movies.
New Line Cinema made 3 of them. I think David Goyer directed the last one, which was kind of
1, 2, and 3 were all good. Come on. 3 was fun.
Which one had Jessica Biel?
3.
She shot an arrow straight down lens of a camera in that one. Like busted a $50,000 camera.
Did you? Yeah. Like on purpose?
She was supposed to shoot at the camera. They had a hole for the lens and plexiglass everywhere else, and it shot straight through the hole. Wow. Bullseye. Like impaled this camera.
I hope there wasn't a cameraman behind that thing at the time.
Yeah. So they. Anyway, Blade. Decent movies, good movies.
It might be one of
some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. Great fucking line.
It might be one of the only Matrix copycats that was brilliant, and the Blade, the opening scene, in the rave
with the water, but it's actually blood. No, Blade is a vampire series. He's a daywalker, so he can walk outside during the day.
First Marvel film?
No,
I thought it was one of the first of the franchise to be made
of MCU. No, it's not MCU at all.
Oh, okay, never mind.
No, that was a completely separate entity. Way before MCU. But Blade is a vampire killer who is also half vampire, and he was played by Wesley Snipes, and he's a badass and all that stuff. Ryan Reynolds was the bad guy in one of them.
He's in the third one.
Yeah. Really entertaining movies, really interesting, very fun. I mean, the character Blade in the comics is also very fun. He basically goes around at night and stabs vampires to death all the time.
I think he was, when his mother was pregnant with him, she was bitten by a vampire, so he was born half or something. So he can go, he's a day walker, he can go out into the sunlight, but he still needs human blood too. But he doesn't want to kill humans,
So those movies were wildly successful when they came out.
They were
really successful. Everybody loved them.
Yeah.
And the rights were owned by New Line and Warner Brothers. And then sometime in like 2018, 19, the rights reverted back to Marvel, as Marvel do. And they started planning like, oh shit, we're gonna make a new movie. So they were announcing their huge slate, and they announced that for Blade, they had cast Mahershala Ali. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's a great actor. He was really hot at that time. I think he was just coming off of Moonlight. He was the only good part about Luke Cage. He's a great actor in his own right. And they cast him as Blade, and everybody was like, oh shit, he's totally perfect for Blade. And then he has a cameo in the Eternals in the post credits, right? Where Jon Snow, he walks up to that sword.
God, I don't remember. I blocked that movie out.
Somebody asked Jon Snow, like, are you ready to pick up that sword, or some bullshit line like that? But he's not on screen. It's just his voice. And that's Blade. That's supposed to be like the introduction to Blade and the Black Knight and all that bullshit that nobody really cares about. But they have that cameo in 2021. In 2021, same year, they hired their first writer, Stacey Osei Kaffour, and Bassam Tariq is hired to direct the film that same year. By 2022, Tariq had left the film due to creative differences, right?
Yeah.
And because of production shifts, which really just means they couldn't make a script and shoot a movie.
This movie's been a long time. They've been talking about redoing this franchise for years.
Yeah, and then by 2022 November, they had another director, Yann Demange. I think that's Demange, maybe. With a new screenwriter, Michael Starbury, which meant the old screenwriter had either walked or turned something in and they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Then Nick Pizzolatto joined again in April 2023, which was supposed to be right before it was supposed to start filming. It was supposed to start filming in September of this year, I think. So they've had two directors. I think that their newer director also left recently, but they've had two directors. They've had four writers. Everybody's walked. Production was supposed to start with this new director, 3 months after the director was brought on board. It's a complete shit show, and now it's been canceled it's been pushed another year. But by the time the movie is even in production, the lead actor will be 50, 51 years old, which for action franchises, that's usually when people start leaving and moving back.
Well, because also, over the next 10 years, they probably want to make at least three movies with him, right? So
yeah,
he's going to be 60. Does he really want to be doing that stuff at 60, 65?
Yeah, I mean,
how went from the first Iron Man movie to the end of the Avengers, like Infinity War series? What was that, about 15 years?
That was 2019 to 2008, 10 years, 11 years.
So yeah. Same kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's unlikely that this movie was pushed because of the writer's strike, but it seems to be pushed because of multiple developmental issues.
Yeah. Another casualty is Stranger Things. If you're a Stranger Things fan, the final season production has been pushed. Duffer Brothers, who are the creators, say they hope a fair deal is reached soon.
Well,
And we're going to start hearing about a lot more TV shows being pushed or paused or...
The last thing Stranger Things needs now is to have
Writer's strike, yeah.
Well, I mean, their production to be pushed again. I mean, that show's already taking way too long to cook.
I guess so, yeah. All those kids have got, they're not going to be kids for much longer. Another interesting thing so I found an article, today is May 6th, Saturday. The writer's strike happened on May 2nd, and I found an article from May 5th saying that the economic fallout, and that would have been 3 days, was $2 billion already. That's from things like the stocks of those companies dropping.
Bless.
Yeah. And so
I'm running for president this year, and my campaign goal is total economic fallout.
Yeah, so Hollywood pumps millions. This is a Hollywood Reporter article. Hollywood pumps millions of dollars per day into hotels, restaurants, and construction companies, among others. Not to mention the pay from workers that supports those sectors. A single major film production shooting on location contributes $250,000 a day to the local economy per Motion Picture Association. That's probably a lowball as well.
I'm telling you, it's got to be great to work in the fucking cafe on the Warner Brothers backlot right now, though.
Yeah, not doing anything.
Yeah.
The last writer strike that blow to California's struggling finances to the tune of $772 million in lost wages for writers and production staff, $981 million in lost revenue for various businesses that service the industry, and $1.3 billion from the ripple effects to the businesses that would have profited from lost wages. So, yes, again, right now, I'm sure as everyone's aware, is a very not good time for
it's a great. What do you mean? It's a great time to lose your job.
Kind of, sort of in a recession, depending on who you ask, and getting worse.
No, we're not in a recession. What are you talking about?
So
it's transitory, bro.
So I mean, I think I'm going down the list of stuff I had to talk about. I think that's pretty much everything that we had. We did
that's
quick
kind of
run
it.
through. How long was this episode been going for?
53.
Not bad. I think was The Fly, Breaking Bad, The Fly, was that a writer's strike episode?
I think that was just a bottle episode.
Filler episode?
It's not a filler, it's a bottle. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
that was just because they ran out of budget and they needed to...
Yeah, they had an episode order, but they didn't really want to spend an episode's worth of budget on that.
Mm-hmm. Only good thing Ryan Johnson have done.
Did he direct that?
Yeah, that's him.
Uh-huh.
I think he wrote and directed that episode.
He directed Ozymandias too at the end of the... at the end of the show.
He needs like a structure. He needs to be slotted in with a structure in place. I'm sure if you give him a great script, he'd probably be able to...
No, he's too busy posing for Entertainment Weekly like this. All of his pictures, he's doing this and like looking directly into the camera and fucking stop that. Stop, you look stupid.
I wanted to ask you about Superman. So Superman's a weird one.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Written, produced, directed, same guy.
Yeah, so James Gunn, who you might know him for doing Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Which is coming out in a couple of days, or is it out already?
It's out already. The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
You may know him from Super or Slither, which are fantastic movies. Peacemaker, PG Porn. If you haven't watched that, definitely do watch PG Porn. It's great.
So he recently, we've talked about this on the podcast before, he is now
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, it's now the co-CEO of DC Comics.
DC...
motion picture, whatever it's called.
Yeah, DC Studios.
Yeah.
So DC Comics is still its own independent thing where that's a publishing company. But they have officially separated the DC intellectual property and brand from Warner Brothers. Yeah. It is no longer a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. It is its own proper production studio owned by Discovery Warner. Mm-hmm. So he has been made CEO of that alongside his longtime production partner, Peter Safran. And he just announced maybe 2 months ago that he had written a script for...
was writing a script.
No, that he had fully written a script for, what's it called? The draft wasn't turned in, but... turned into himself, but he had written a script for Superman Legacy, which is what he's calling the film. And then about a month ago, he also announced that after a lot of thinking, he has chosen to direct the film himself as well.
And handed the first draft of Superman Legacy in last week, a couple of days before the writer's strike.
Yes, which is funny because he's the producer of the film as well as the director of the film as well as the writer of the film.
So
he handed it to himself for himself to review with himself
and
greenlight for himself to direct.
Yeah, and produce
and produce. So
for him then to review.
And they're aiming for a 2025 release date, which means that production has to commence pretty soon. I can't imagine a Superman movie is going to be like low VFX.
Like at the very latest, they will be shooting that like the start of next year. Latest, probably.
And I mean, hopefully it turns out because
here we go. Pre-production kicked off last month.
Yeah. So
sorry, they're doing costumes, production design. Yeah.
All right. I mean, hopefully a writer's not necessary on set all the time for that. But
well, it's weird because he's directing, so he can be on set, and it's his story. So. That is something that probably won't be affected.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because it's also the only thing DC has in the can past the Flash and Aquaman 2.
And it's his first.
I cannot believe Aquaman 2 is still not out.
Did you hear what that? Did you hear what the writer of No, it wasn't the writer. The costume designer of the Flash said.
Oh yeah, like when you see the Flash, you'll forget that he choked out that bitch.
Something fucking wild.
Fucking crazy. Yeah. The Flash looks.
It's so good you'll forget that.
Yeah,
Ezra Miller is a complete lunatic.
I don't believe the hype in it just because I've seen the trailers and it looks like his head is bobbleheading on this fake CGI rubber mess of a body they put.
DC pre-Guns takeover.
Also, I don't believe Ezra Miller in the role. I think he's a fairly talented actor.
I mean, it'd be wild if it comes out and it's the best superhero movie ever made. That'd be really funny.
I don't think so, man. It's got way past age Michael Keaton still doing his Batman voice.
The odds are definitely stacked against him for sure.
Yeah, dude, imagine like you wrote that. The Flash was in production for like 10 years, literally 10 years with that same lead actor. They kept changing directors. They kept changing writers. I think at one point, Grant Morrison was on board at one point to write it alongside Ezra Miller, and then he left the project. And you had the guys who did the D&D movie. They were supposed to direct it, and they got fired from it. Mm-hmm. I think Phil Miller and Chris Lord were on it, and they got fired. It's just everybody kept getting fired from that movie. And the script they ended up sticking with is one that features Ezra Miller in 2 roles, where he plays himself twice, and most of the movie is him talking to himself. And then Ezra Miller has to go and, start 17 bar fights and murder a man in cold blood in Reno just to watch him die. Yeah. Like, it's a bit of a wild turn of events. I don't believe that movie is coming out until my ass is in a chair.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of... I think that we might have exhausted this topic now. We did I think you did a decent overrun. I'm trying to think of any. I'm just quickly Googling to see if there's any more news out.
I mean, it's Saturday. Not a lot's going to come out. They were handing out sandwiches at the Writers Guild Theater on Wilshire. Good. Yesterday. Oh, no, earlier today when I was driving up. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. Vive la Revolution.
So here's, by the way...
Death to all scabs.
Here's a
Except the good ones.
Article from yesterday saying all the TV shows and movies affected by the WGA strike. So we'll give you a quick rundown. Late night shows go dark. AMC shows, so like the Walking Dead spin-offs.
Oh, no.
Abbott Elementary, Big Mouth, Blade.
Oh, no.
Cobra Kai closed its writers' room for season 6.
Actually, oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently series co-creator John Horowitz tweeted pencils down in solidarity, which is kind of like, that's cool. Shouldn't they though? I mean, less solidarity and more there in the WGA, but whatever. Good Omen. What? Good Omens? No, that's an actual no. Neil Gaiman has also posted his support for the writer's strike. The creator tweeted earlier that the long-awaited season 2 of Good Omens, starring David Tennant and Michael Sheen, would appear sometime this summer. However, if you're hopeful for a stirring Gaiman press tour, you might need divine intervention for the writers on strike. So
well, I mean, if it's supposed to premiere this summer, it's mostly done, right?
He says, I'm in the Writers Guild of America. I wish this wasn't happening and support it absolutely. When I wake up tomorrow, I'll be on strike. To forestall the inevitable questions, Good Omens 2 is completed and handed in, although I may not be able to promote it as I had hoped. So
okay, so it's fine. It's done. That's not a thing that's affected. That's totally misleading. No. Yeah. 0%. Bad variety.
Gutfeld. Not sure what that is. House of the Dragon. I was unaware there were writers on set in the
first season.
MTV Movie Awards.
Oh no.
Rap shit? I don't know what that is. Rings of Power.
Oh, it's a Ray movie or show.
Yeah, Rings of Power is another.
Also, not sure that there were any writers to begin. They fired their writers.
Team anyway on the first season, so
they fired them before the filming started, which is a huge mess.
Might actually make it better. Saturday Night Live.
I haven't seen anything that they've written that has been great. So maybe
The Talk. Don't know what that is. Yellow Jacket's supposed to be great. I've seen it.
I've heard a lot of good things about Yellow Jackets.
Yeah,
it's got a lot of good actresses.
Yeah, I've heard. It's season 3 already. Wow. So
maybe TV is going to suck for a little bit, guys.
And movies.
Yeah, well, movies have sucked for a while now.
On the other hand, if you're an aspiring writer and you want to sweep in and post something, that's probably the chance to do it.
If you're a writer and you are listening to this, I can't imagine why you are. But if you would like to come and give us your impressions, please hit us up. Our contacts are in the link below.
Yeah. We'll try and
hit one of us, both of us, either of us, and or both.
We'll try and keep you updated, I guess, as more news comes out.
I mean, if you're a writer, you know what you're keeping your ear to the ground. I'm saying, like, if you want to come on and like interface and give us your
talk about
input, talk about fucking anything. We're desperate for content. Please
join our Discord. We have a new Discord now.
We have a new Discord.
I don't know whether I said that at the start of this episode.
It's a Discord.
Come join our Discord. The link will be in the episode description.
Hey,
you can suggest topics that you want us to talk about. We have threads for every new episode where we post stuff we want to talk about, and you can comment and add things saying, no, we don't need to talk about that.
No, we don't want to talk about that.
So anything else other than the writer's strike that you want to talk about?
I can't particularly think of anything. I think that our Discord is really what I want to shill right now.
Yeah. And Butler, go download Butler. We're making an app that lets you search, save, and share all your favorite media.
Where you can find out all your favorite writers for all of your favorite things. Maybe there's a writer that you subconsciously just like their work and you haven't really been able to put 2 and 2 together because they don't really advertise who writers are on stuff anymore.
If we manage to get this app off the ground and people love it, then one of the features we want to add is much better suggestions and insights into things like that.
Yeah.
We'll say, hey, we think you may not realize it, but there's a big correlation. We think you're going to love movies written by this guy.
You really like movies where Jeff Goldblum is shirtless. Yeah. Maybe try The Fly.
Yeah.
No, do join our Discord. Mostly so we can get a little bit of a finger on the pulse of who exactly is listening to this damn thing.
Yeah.
Because I know you right there, you're holding your laundry basket. Put it down. Put it down.
I guess also if you don't know and you are particularly inclined and are an audio listener right now, you can actually watch this on either YouTube or on Spotify. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so you want to sign off? I think
let's do it.
All right. My name is Adrian. Thank you for listening.
I'm Alex. Thank you for listening.
This has been the Chicken Coop Podcast. Please join us next time. Alexa, play 40 minutes of fart sounds.